Hi, I'm Julie Hornock with United in Autism. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited about our guest we have today. Her name is Donna Levey. She is from California, from San Francisco, and she has had some tough stuff happen in her life. And what I love about her is that her attitude, she keeps fighting, she keeps moving forward. She is positive, has a good positive energy about her, and what makes her a hero is that she's going to continue to fight, but not only that, help others. So I'm going to see if I can pull her on there. Donna, I don't quite see you yet, so I'll keep looking for you, and as soon as I see you, I'll be able to pull you on here. All right, I see you now, so I'm inviting you. Hopefully we'll see Donna in just a second. She has some older children, and then she has adopted 2 boys, and I cannot wait for her to tell you about that. That in itself is a story, but she also has parented or been the caretaker for kids 50 years apart with autism. So she has this great, beautiful knowledge base. All right, Donna, I see you. I'm going to bring you on camera. So hopefully to get this worked out, but I appreciate your patience with us. She will be here any minute. Donna, all you have to do is click the add button, and then we get to share her story with you. And I love finding people that in the midst of tough things just really kind of dig in and they move forward and they continue.
Right.
Hey, Donna.
Hi, Julie.
I am so happy that we got this FaceTime thing worked out. So
Me too.
thank you for joining me. And I had already kind of given them a little update on who you were. And why don't you tell me a little bit? Let's start maybe with your childhood and what makes you so unique is that you've had autism experience your whole life. So tell us maybe about your brother.
My brother Bobby was 8 years younger than I am. He was born in 1957. And his first year, he just seemed like a normal, regular, fun, happy baby. Mm-hmm. He was the 4th child, so he was just kind of like our toy, our doll. Yeah. And sometime like a few days after his first birthday, he stopped talking and he started his self-stimulation, shaking a string and sitting on the floor and rocking back and forth. And then when he was about 2 or 3, he started having seizures, really big, scary seizures. And my parents took him to University of California at San Francisco Medical Center to have him checked out. And first the doctors told my parents he was deaf. And I knew he wasn't deaf because I took care of him and I played with him and I could stand behind him and call his name and he would answer. Mm-hmm. So I remember me being about 10 or 11 telling the doctor, I know my brother is not deaf. And, he was the arrogant, big white doctor, and he was kind of annoyed. So anyway, my parents left and somehow he got on phenobarbital and Dilantin for the seizures. Mm-hmm. And when I was in 3rd and 4th grade, I was giving him this medication before I'd go to school in the morning and taking care of him.
What? You were giving it to him. So when he was diagnosed, you had shared with me previously that your parents kind of panicked and couldn't handle the diagnosis. And of course, back then it wasn't very common at all. And so all of the caretaking was handed over to you. Tell us about that. You were his caretaker at 10 or 11 years old.
Yes, I was his caretaker. They still didn't know about autism, and somewhere in there he was misdiagnosed as mentally retarded. So we just treated him as if he were mentally retarded and had this medication. But I had to mash up his baby food and bananas and put him in his high chair before I went to school and feed him and give him his medication in a baby bottle of milk, which he hated drinking because it was pink milk with phenobarbital in it. And when I would come home from school, I would do the same thing in reverse. And because I was the oldest of 4, it didn't bother me for a really long time. That's just what you did. You took your little brothers and sisters around. But by the time I was in 8th grade and I was 13 or 14, I was wanting to be a regular teenager. and my parents were involved in Boy Scouts and Little League and things for my other siblings. And on occasions, when there would be a family barbecue or a church picnic, we'd all be excited. Yay, everybody get in the car.
Mhm.
And as I was grabbing my jacket, I would always hear, well, not you, Donna. You have to stay home and take care of Bobby. And I was like, oh, not again. I'm
So you were getting him ready in the morning, getting him off to school, going to school yourself, coming home, and then taking care of him again. And then on the weekends, if your parents were out with others, you were also caretaking for him.
Yes. And it got to be a drag.
Yeah. It would be hard with if you're 10 or 11 or 12 or 13, a teen taking care of any child, much less a child that was diagnosed with autism and just severe at that. So, kind of tell us what happened after that.
Well, he was just different from every child. And when he got his diagnosis of mentally retarded back in the day, when they called it that, he went briefly to aid retarded children's nursery school, and he was still different from all of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he made no eye contact, he wasn't cuddly or affectionate, and he was just completely disconnected. And I knew when my parents knew there's just something else going on. But after a while, I got so tired of taking care of him. I actually remember halfway through 8th grade asking my parents if they could please send me to live with my grandmother or my great aunt, or I was serious, adopt me out like anybody wants a 14-year-old, or put me in foster care. I can't stand taking care of Bobby anymore. He's not my kid. I want to go do stuff on the weekend with my friends, and I just hate this. And my parents, I remember them up really late that night crying. And I think, unbeknownst to me, that they had already decided that something down the road was going to have to be done with Bobby, and they were just waiting for the catalyst. And so they got him on a waiting list for Sonoma State Hospital. And when he was about 5 and a half, he actually got accepted to go live at Sonoma State Hospital in what was at the time actually called the vegetable ward.
Mm. Wow. Well, I mean, I can't even imagine what the conditions were. Well, maybe you can tell us what were the conditions like in that hospital where he was at in the vegetable ward.
Well, it wasn't like super creepy like an orphanage in Romania or anything, but it was pretty close. There were kids from 0 to 5, and they were in big metal cribs,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them were naked, and they had no toys because they would just eat them
Mm-hmm.
and throw them out of the crib. And some of them were tied into the cribs, and I really remember these two little, like 3-year-olds. They had Down syndrome and they were blind. And anytime I would go in to pick up my brother to, take him out with the family for the day, these two little kids were just sitting in chairs in the hall, hugging each other and rocking back and forth and humming. And it just struck something in me that this is not right. There's something much better that these kids could be doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
just decided I had to save all the children of the world. So I became at 16 the youngest Red Cross certified volunteer to be at Sonoma State Hospital.
Wow. I mean, it's so impressive that you had all of this care of your brother, which was too hard for any child, but then seeing this struck your heart and you went ahead and volunteered again. You signed back up for it. So your brother, you also said something to yourself about adopting when you were older. You kind of got something in your mind.
I did actually when I was 11 in the 6th grade. The kids down the street from us, the family down the street had two little foster girls, and the mother was so mean and so abusive and so awful to these little girls. I asked my mom, I said, could I bring Mrs. Kelly's Debbie's home to my house?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be their foster mom in 6th grade. I'll take care of them. I'll keep them in my room. I'll keep them quiet. It was like asking for a pony.
Yeah.
But my parents actually told me to go to school and to tell the teacher and to tell someone, and I did. So
Mm-hmm.
something was done with these kids, and I just got something in my head. I have to save all the poor little children of the world, and I'm going to be a foster parent when I grow up. And when I met the person that became my husband, I had told him when we were dating, I said, I want two biological kids, and then I want to adopt two kids. And he said, sounds good to me.
Wow, that's great. And so, in between that, when you had your kids, you became a special ed teacher, right?
Yes, I did. I was a paraprofessional in resource specialist program and special day class.
Yeah. So you were, I mean, you were saving the kids from the moment. It's incredible to me to see something you don't like, but yet you took it and you did something about it where you tried to help others with it. And so, I mean, that's fantastic. So you married your husband, you're a special ed teacher, you raised your biological kids, and then where does Dolan enter the picture?
Well, my older children were born in 70 and 71, and sometime around 73 or 74, my husband and I applied to adopt two kids. And they said because I worked at the time, working mothers couldn't adopt kids. So we
Mm-hmm.
said, we'll take two foster kids. We'll take somebody deaf or with Down syndrome because we have two healthy kids. And they said, nope, if you work, whoop, you can't be a foster parent. So I
Mm-hmm.
just gave up on the idea for a while. And then sometime when I was 57, I decided I'm going to get my foster care license anyway, and I'm going to do this now. So
Yeah.
I was for the city and county of San Francisco, and I was working on my foster care license at the same time. And I got the license for medically fragile infants, which
Mm-hmm.
here is mostly drug addicted babies,
Mm-hmm.
and medically at risk children. And I
Mm-hmm.
had, 6, 7, 8 kids come through my house. And then one day they called up and said, we have another sick little crack exposed baby. You want to come and get him? And it was Dolan. And he was so cute and he was so little and he
Mm-hmm.
was really a weird baby. I mean, notice I noticed like right away, okay, there's more than just crack going on with this baby.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the lines, all of my friends loved him and my mom loved him, and everybody said, why don't you adopt him? And I thought, well, why not? I'm just going to keep having a bunch of foster kids
Yeah.
coming through. So why don't I adopt him? Because by the time he was 6 or 7 months old, I had had him evaluated by Golden Gate Regional Center and Easter Seals
Mm-hmm.
and other programs. And my mom told me, she goes, Donna, he either has Tourette's or autism, so you
Mm-hmm.
better get him evaluated. And I thought, she knows. She was 80 when Dolan was born. So I was prepared for his issues. I was pretty well versed in all of this special needs stuff, and I adopted him. And before his adoption was final, they called me a year later and said, we have another little sick, crack exposed baby. You want to come and get him? And that's my little Dylan.
Yeah.
So now I have a 12-year-old and an 11-year-old special needs kids.
Yeah. And
And
so you are able to see the difference. Can you share with us what is the difference between autism in the 50s and then autism now? What have you seen? What is different? I guess is what I want to know. I know there's so much has changed. There's so much more of it for one, but what is the difference in care and perception?
that's the amazing thing is there's so much more of it. I don't know if it's happening more or if it's just being identified more. But
Mm-hmm.
some of the wonderful changes, my brother was never allowed to go to school. He just didn't go to public school.
Mm-hmm.
And he passed away at right around his 50th birthday, and he had never gone to school, no education, no
Yeah.
nothing. And now San Francisco Unified School District is so aware and on board with all kinds of special needs
Mm-hmm.
and autism. And I must say that my two kids have been treated so wonderfully and so properly by San Francisco Unified School District. Not
Mm-hmm.
all parents have the same experience,
Yeah.
but I used to write IEPs, so nobody can trick me in an IEP.
Right.
And I'm also a certified parent mentor with support for families of children with disabilities. And that's
Yeah.
another. Yeah, that's another agency in San Francisco that has support and resources and all kinds of wonderful things for the families of children with special needs.
Yeah, I mean that's beautiful. I love how you once again, same thing in your at the beginning of your life. You went through something super hard. You came out of it helping others. Again, you adopted two beautiful boys. One of them has autism, and now you're using it again to help others through that organization. And I just, that's so impressive. I think it's so important, and it shows a lot about your spirit and your energy. And I'm very impressed with that. And so right now you're in the midst of another really hard thing, and once again you've already turned it and you're helping other parents. So tell us a little bit about what happened with Dolan.
Well, what happened with Dolan, he has multiple things going on. He's on the mild end of the autism spectrum. That's his secondary diagnosis. His first diagnosis is severe emotional disturbance, and
Mm-hmm.
then autism, and then psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
And he just had so many issues. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Oh,
What
you're
did you
fine.
ask me?
Yeah, he had so
Ask
many
me the
issues
question
that
again.
you had something happen in your home, and he was taken away. What?
Oh, yes. Well, his behavior, as he was getting older, his behavior was getting more out of control and more self-destructive and just more outwardly destructive.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he just historically would wreck things in the classroom, going in the morning and just start taking things out of cupboards and throwing them. School knew how to deal with it. They'd have 5 or 6 staff members deal with it, but at home it was just me. And he was not setting fires, but he was playing with fire,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just getting more and more violent. And he smashed our living room window and smashed the TV. And it was like, okay, we need to step up here. All
Mm-hmm.
the support that he has at school is great, and the therapy that he has outside is great, but we need something more. So I asked for a higher level of care, and I
Mm-hmm.
asked him for him to get put in a place called Edgewood Children's Center,
Mm-hmm.
which if he had had a 30 to 45-day stay, I feel it would have stabilized him, given him some tools, and helped him quite a bit. And in the meantime, I found a new school in San Francisco, Macaulay Counseling Enriched Educational Program, that is on the grounds of St. Mary's Hospital, and it's all um, counseling focused in the
Right.
classroom. And they have family counseling and peer counseling and everything else. So when I was trying to get him into there, but a place called Seneca Connections that transports Dolan, and like he has kind of like a big brother there,
Mm-hmm.
they had a lot of funding, and they didn't want him in Edgewood because they'd lose his funding. So
So what
things,
you asked for all this help and you were trying to get him into some other programs, and then instead what happened?
instead, CPS kind of tricked me into giving them my child, and I thought they were going to help him. And they called me a couple days later and said that they put him in a foster home about 100 miles away. And I mean, autism, you can't stand even turning left when you usually turn right on your
Right.
way to the
Yeah.
grocery store. And this little boy went to the same school from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade graduation
Mm-hmm.
in one place, where the school hired a shadow to help him make friends.
Yeah.
He friends he was developing, he was great. And then they put him 100 miles away, where they put him in 3 different schools in one year.
So he went from this beautiful, wonderful situation where you were trying to get him help to one you felt was a whole lot less healthy. And now you're in another fight for your life and fight for his life to get him back, right? So what's the name of
Yes.
the organization? You've been, not only that, but you've taken on other parents trying to help them get their children back from CPS. So what is the name of that organization that you were?
The name of that is Parents Against CPS Corruption. And actually now we're several hundred strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a bad situation, but it's also good for us to know that, oh, it's not just me. They're
Mhm.
not just saying I'm a horrible parent and that I can't take care of my child. Oh, they do this to everyone. So now I realize that Dolan is really profitable in the foster care system because his needs are so great.
Right.
So you
So
have foster.
you've taken this and you've started fighting for other kids, and you're fighting for your own son, which I have to tell you, I'm grateful for you sharing that, because it is one of the biggest fears. Our kids, of a parent, our kids don't have behaviors that are deemed acceptable. And sometimes they do become violent. And I think that's really scary in the home, because you, as a mom, you just want help and you need help. And then if you call someone, you are scared that CPS might get involved and take your kid away. So I'm so grateful for you sharing that. And I want you to know that we are, our thoughts and prayers are with you as you work to get him back. And man, it's a hard thing. But I know one of the things you said was that you know, energy is energy. So I can take all this anger and this frustration and I can put it all together and I can just use it for positive. And watching what you're doing, I believe that's what you're doing. And I'm excited to see how the impact you make in that area by joining with other parents. So I thank you for sharing that. I thank you for sharing your whole story. And I'm really hoping you continue to move forward. And I thank you for sharing all of it. So thank you very much.
Welcome, Julie. It was my pleasure, and I hope that my child comes back one of these days.
Me too. Me too. I really
And
do.
that will be wonderful because the other kid really misses him too.
I'm sure his brother does. And yes, you're living out one of the parents' biggest fears, and you're fighting and you're using your energy in a positive way. And I wanted everyone to hear that part of it and to meet you, because it does happen and you have to move forward. And you are doing just that. You're moving forward and fighting. And so, anyway,
Thank you, Julie. I'm also really worried about him at this point in foster care because in court last week, the lawyer is saying that now he's threatening violence against the foster mother and the other little girl in the house. And it's like, that's what I told you in the first place. That's what I said he's doing. So help him. And now the lawyer's going, well, now he needs more therapy. And it's like, well, only because you took him away for a year and a half and you made him even worse. So I can hardly wait to get him back. So I can wrap him up in a blanket and hug him and kiss him and tell him it'll be okay.
I know. I can't even imagine how hard it must be. So, everyone will read more about your story in the book. And I just thank you for sharing today. And I will talk to you soon.
You're welcome, Julie. And I'm really excited about the book. And I can
Me
hardly
too.
wait to read the foreword by Temple Grandin. I read her book decades ago. And
I know
I'm so excited about your book.
she's brilliant. So, all right. Well, you have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.